Community Matters.
Hello and welcome to Many Voices, One Community, stories that unite us across Long Island and beyond. I'm Gaitley Stevenson Mathews, and I'm so very pleased to serve as your host. And today is a very special day because I have my good friend, Howard Stillwagon. As many of you know who watch our podcasts or follow things around in the North Shore, Howard Stillwagon is the commander of VFW Post 347. Howard is very involved in the community, both creatively. I think about your art. I want to make sure we talk about your stained glass, which I have some of that in my home, and certainly talk about how you serve our community, both serving during the Vietnam War and how that service has continued. So, Howie, so great having you here today.
It's great to be here, Gaitley.
So what I love to do, if that's okay, I want to make sure we talk about that difficult time in our history, certainly Vietnam, and coming home. I want to make sure we talk about your creative side of life. I do want to make sure because I love your art. I love that creativity. You know, we had Evelyn Candell here who served in the Marines, but is also a poet. And I love when you've got kind of that combination of things going on, which doesn't always happen, but happens more often than people realize. I think the kind of talent that it takes to serve our nation really takes creativity and creative thinking and those kind of things, and certainly you have that. And I also want to talk how you give back to the community so much. But before we go there, I'd like to take it backwards.
Okay.
And let's do this. Let's talk about your life, because you grew up in Glen Cove, correct?
Okay, yeah.
So growing up in Glen Cove before Vietnam.
Okay.
So what was that? Who was that Howie? And does that Howie know the Howie who's here today?
That Howie is the same Howie. I grew up in the orchard section of Glen Cove, which was mostly Italian. We did have, some Spanish and blacks that lived in the neighborhood also, and we all got along greatly back in the 50s and 60s, and had a lot of fun. We, all the kids, we always played behind the coal school, stickball, everything, baseball, football, and played games at night, hide and seek, Ringalivio, Barnacky, all these crazy games we would make up.
Right, and was that the day and age when you came home and the street lights went on, right?
Yeah, kind of, but we played at night also, in the neighborhood. And back then, nobody locked their doors and the windows were open, and there was nobody, that neighborhood, everybody watched out for one another. Right. And I had a great childhood growing up in the orchard, Glen Cove.
And I think about, it's certainly the demographics have changed in that neighborhood lots.
Yes, big time, yes.
And some things have changed, but it's still a close-knit community.
Yeah,
and
yes, indeed.
I often say, as you know, I'm also a member of Sons and Daughters of Italy, even though I don't have a drop of Italian blood. But I always say that community is so close-knit. It reminds me of my growing up as a little kid in the South, because families looked out after one another. Whatever the background, you just made sure you took care of one another. And that to me is what makes Glen Cove beautiful. And that for me also is why, even in not having grown up here, that familiarity is something that is so true and so real and so important. So here you are. Let's fast forward to high school. And those are, you have a few years on me, not many, but you've got a few years on me. And I will say, in high school, when I was 12 and 13, I always assumed I'd go to high school and then I would start worrying about being drafted. But of course, the war ended before I was 13 or 14 years old. So that never came to be the case for me, but certainly was the case for you. So
yes, it was. Yeah.
You are you comfortable sharing that part of history?
Yeah, high school. I kind of bombed out of algebra. I just didn't get it. So my guidance counselor put me in business classes, which I excelled at typing. I got a 98 on the typing exam.
Wow.
So his I thought was for me to go to this 2-year school in Boston, Chamberlain. It was specializing in court stenography.
Wow.
He thought I could do that, and I thought I could too. So my family was poor. They couldn't afford to send me to Boston, so I was working at Photo Circuits and going to Nassau at night. But I had the first semester I had to take courses with no credits, 2 courses, so I didn't have enough for a deferment. And I just had, if I got through the first semester, it would have been fine. I was saving money to go to the school, and turns out I got drafted in November.
So that changed everything, obviously.
That did. I knew I was 1A. I was gone. Yeah. So I quit school, and I just enjoyed the time I had till May of '68.
Right.
And that's when I went in, May 8th, and went to training down in Georgia, Fort Gordon, very old Army base. The barracks were like from World War II, maybe World War I. They had a coal stove in them and stuff. So 2 weeks into training, I got pneumonia because it was like 100 degrees in the day and then go down to like 40 at night. And I was by a window. So, but, I got through it. I was 6 days in the hospital, but I got through it. And so everybody went infantry. Only 2 guys in my whole class, maybe like 200 people, went to a different job. Everybody else went to Fort Jackson for infantry training.
Right.
So I was there training how to kill people, which was not, pleasant, but had to do it. And so then I was selected because I scored very well on all the testing, and I was hoping that maybe I'd get lucky with working in the business side of the Army. But no, they needed bodies for Vietnam. So they sent me to NCO school, which is to become a sergeant in Fort Benning, Georgia. So I go down there, and it's like going back to basic training again. It was all shave your hair off and exercise, a lot of strict stuff. I didn't want to do it, so I dropped out, and I was a holdover down there for like 3 months, and then they sent me orders for Scout Dog Platoon. So I went down I trained the dogs, and I talked to the warrant officer, and I said, okay, so I'm going to Vietnam with this dog. It's going to be with me. I'm going to be attached to it. Does the dog come home with me? And he said, no, the dog stays. And I said, then I don't want to do this. And he got all mad at me, and he said, you have orders? I said, I'll just go AWOL. And he got really mad at me. He said, okay.
It's not the thing you say, right? You're going
on the next plane to Vietnam. I said, I know I'm going to Vietnam. I'm infantry, So I got out of that. And
if I can interrupt, I also, just so viewers know, Cruiser is with us today. So maybe that's a full circle.
Yeah,
Who is your guide dog?
Definitely is. A different kind of dog, though. Different kind of dog, but still, he's very smart. Anyway, all right. So I got my orders. I got a 30-day leave, and so from there I had to go to Fort Lewis, Washington.
Right.
I was there for like 5 days, and got the flight to Vietnam. And so when I got there, I was assigned to the 1st Cavalry Division, 1st to the 7th Cavalry, and shipped up to this area called Phuc Vinh, which was rubber tree plantations for like Goodyear Tire and all the big tire companies. So at that time, that area was pretty calm. So we were just outside of the base in the rubber trees, just hanging out, kind of, on guard duty and stuff. And there were these girls that came out on their little motorcycle things with, Coke and things to eat and anything ice, which was hard to find, and the beer, and if you wanted that, and so that was pretty calm the first 2 months, and I was like, I won't mind doing this for the whole
so
time,
bad, right?
Then we got shipped down by the Cambodian border, and that's when all hell broke loose.
Right. And as I remember, so I was just reading some things earlier. You had an injury, did you not? Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. Are you comfortable? Do you mind sharing about that?
I'm going to get to that. Yeah,
okay, then go ahead. I'm sorry.
All right. So when we got to Quan Loy area, it's very close to the Cambodian border. We were out on search and destroy missions, and we were finding a lot of bunkers with food and weapons and blowing them up. And so then we had to go to this. It's a landing zone. It's an LZ, a landing zone. It's a little base. It's got artillery on there and supplies and stuff.
Right.
So we went and we built this LZ Phyllis, and so we were getting attacked every night, and really a lot of fighting, going on, and really heavy duty stuff. They were shooting mortars and rockets and like 300 rounds into our little base every night, and we were in the bunkers, and it was scary. And one night in the bunker, I felt something on my chest, and it was a gigantic rat.
Oh my gosh!
So I swatted it off me, and I went out and under a piece of corrugated steel and slept out there that night. But that was bad. So then we went off the base. They took the base apart because it was getting so much, artillery and stuff firing on it that they dismantled it, and we were the last ones there, and that was scary because they were all around us. So now we're in thick jungle, and we ran out of food and water. So we had to blow up like 6 trees so a helicopter could come in and give us supplies. Well,
right.
The North Vietnamese army heard that, and they surrounded us. So when we got up to leave, the first platoon went out. I was in the second platoon. When they went out, they hit us, and they hit us from all sides. So I'm sitting on the ground with a full pack, and so I released my pack and I started firing. Where I heard the AK-47s, they have a distinct sound like crack, 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 and so one of my guys said, "Be careful, our guys are out there too," and I was like, "Oh shit,"
Right, right, that's okay.
So a B-40 rocket flew over me and my friend Anthony's head, and I'm like, they're firing from across from us. So I see the tree that we blew down. I jump behind the tree, and the B-40 rocket hit the tree in front of the tree. And so my friends said they saw me flying through the air. I wound up with a traumatic brain injury and an injury to my left leg, my knee. And so that got me out of the jungles after 6 months, which I had enough. I had seen 20 guys get killed, and it was pretty hard thinking about their families when you're looking at those body bags. And I'm like, that guy's going home in 3 months. I just got here, and I'm saying, I'm never going to get out of here, But after I got hurt, I was in the base, the big base at Quan Loy, and they gave me a job, and the time passed, and I went home. In the meantime, I got kidney stones when I was over there, so I wound up in the big hospital in Saigon. But the VA's paying me for all those injuries, and
right.
It's okay. So I come home on Thanksgiving Day, 1969. My parents were at the airport, and one of my best friends, and it was special, I have pictures. My poor mother, she was so worried about me, and she was dying, She was a very sick woman. And
that's what I read.
Yeah,
right.
And we never told her how bad things was. When I would write to my sister or my father, I said, "Don't tell Mom,"
Right. I had Ben Farnan on here, and Ben, forgive me if I am misquoting you, but Ben said something about he became the best fiction writer. Because, of course, he couldn't share what was really going on.
Right, he couldn't
because he didn't want his
parents
family
would
to
be
worry.
so extra worried. Now, my father was in Normandy Day in Normandy, and
right.
he was in the second wave in. Luckily, on Omaha Beach, his ship was hit, so he didn't go on the first wave, which probably saved his life. But he got hit in the hedgerows by an 88 cannon shrapnel in his leg. So he was in England for about 6 weeks. He had a traumatic brain injury also.
Wow.
And then he healed up and went back into Germany and got shot in the leg again. So so he had 2 Purple Hearts and a head injury. So when I came home on Thanksgiving Day, and when we got home, my mom had cooked a nice turkey dinner and all. And he took one look at me and he said, "You're shell-shocked." And I said, "Yeah, you might be right, Dad. I saw a lot of stuff happen to me over there." And so it was hard. Coming home, there was nobody saying, patting you on the back or anything. It's just my family mostly and my friends, but nobody.
That's certainly a sad,
at
a
least
sad time for our country
It
for
was.
not having recognized our veterans and coming home.
Yeah, at least nobody spit on me in the
Right.
airports.
No, but
when
still.
I came home, I was from San Francisco. We landed in Oakland. I processed out of the Army, and we went to the airport, and it was like midnight, and we got an 8 a.m. flight home. So, nobody.
So no parades.
No, nothing.
No welcome home.
No, nothing.
No welcome home.
So my dad said, put a claim in, you're shell-shocked, and you had the kidney stones and stuff. I said, okay. So I went to the VA in Manhattan. They never even sent me to a psychiatrist. They just ignored that shell-shock
And when
thing.
was this? What year? What year
That
are we
was
talking?
of 70 probably, like
Right.
January of 70 when I first came home. So the kidney stones, they brought me in to the test, an IBP X-ray, which showed no kidney stones because they pulled them out of me
Right.
in Vietnam. So, but I had kidney stones every year, every 5 years. I had kidney stones. I had a history of them. So I do get compensation from the
I started
VA.
to say, eventually that was corrected.
Yeah. Yeah,
that
it took time,
it
but they
wasn't-
gave me
right.
nothing. But now they do. They recognized it. And
As it, well,
yeah.
sometimes I feel like we have forgotten, but I feel like at least there has been some energy in trying to right the wrong. It doesn't make it all right, but I do feel that, or at least my hope.
Yeah, the VA has gotten so much better. Since I started, I put my claims in 2009 when Obama said that anyone that was in combat gets post-traumatic stress,
Right.
25%, or any Agent Orange thing. Now I got diabetes, so type 2, and I put the claims in for those. And because of my head injury, I forgot a lot of other things like the knee and a couple of other injuries I had, and so I had to stop fighting the VA about the 25%. I felt I deserved more. So I was fighting, and finally a congressman, I don't know who it was, wrote a letter to the VA saying, why are you giving this guy a hard time with his claims? And my counselor in the Plainview VA at the time put my appeal papers along with 90 other people in a box in a closet and forgot about them for like 2 years. That was a big article. It was in the headlines of Newsday. That guy got into a lot of trouble, but that messed my claims up. So when the congressman knew that happened to me, he got on the VA's case, and then they sent me my medical records for my whole 2 years in the Army, and that's when I saw these things, my ear, the tinnitus in my ear, They don't give you anything for hearing loss from the explosions and everything, but tinnitus, they give you 10%.
Right.
Yeah. So
Well,
and my knee, I got 25% right away.
Right.
And I kept fighting the post-traumatic stress. They finally sent me to a private psychiatrist in Comac.
Right.
And after I told him everything I went through, told you guys about, and there's even more, but I don't want to drag this out.
Right. Sure.
He said, "You're getting 75% now," and that got me to 100.
Good.
And that's
Good.
that's
What's heartbreaking to me, and granted, I wasn't the person who was negligent there, but I was the person negligent there because that was our nation. That was our nation, and that's a part of all of us. So and as you know, my brother served in Afghanistan, 2 tours of duty. My sister-in-law served. My dad was in World War II, but I was never there. But at least I've had a window somewhat into that, and also through friends such as you. And I will just say it is a sad day and a sad mark on our nation that we did such a poor job of taking care of our veterans.
Yeah,
and
it
that's
was bad.
wrong. That's just wrong.
It was bad. It was
there's
really
no other
bad.
word.
Yeah.
It's just wrong.
Yeah.
And I, as an American, I'm sorry.
Well, not your fault.
Howie, I love you. I love what you do, what you bring to the community, and the whole idea that you have to come home from serving our nation and fighting wars and then have to fight our government is heartbreaking and just wrong. There's just no other way around it.
A lot of it, yeah. But,
so I'm going to switch gears, if that's okay, because I just want to. So here is a
forward.
quote, and I think it was. It may have been Roxy, Roxy, who writes for our Glen Cove Herald, and I just adore her. I just feel like she works so
Roxy.
hard
she's great.
to cover our community, and what a big job. And I often feel like, if you're covering a big city and those kind of things, you've got some kind of challenges. But you also have challenges in a little paper because you don't have the staff and stuff. You do it, and she does it. And I think this was from her article. It may not have been another, but I know it said, I quoted you as saying, "I'm all about peace and love." Mm-hmm. And I think about your journey in the service and the fact that is at the heart of who you are. And I see that, and I know that. And people who know you know that that's the case. And so in that way, it is even more sad and more wrong that we were doing that. So share with us a little bit. I know how did you come to be commander of VFW Post 347? And then I want to talk a little bit about your art, and then we're going to have to wrap this up.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Well, all right. So I've been a member of the VFW for quite some time, over 30 years. And I worked my way up. I had other jobs, there's like trustees and quartermaster and adjutant. So I had a couple of those jobs moving up. And then when Henry wanted to, he had done like 2 postmaster tours, and he wanted to retire from it. I said, I'll do it,
Right. And that had been, I know, the fire. Henry was their commander during the fire.
Yeah, right. I came in right when it reopened.
Right. And I remember that day.
When I became commander, when the post reopened, yeah.
Right.
And
thank you.
Yeah.
And that day, it was Joe. Joe actually sent me Joe Morris saying that what had happened, and I made sure to stay out of the way. But I did, since it's my neighborhood, I did go down and stood outside of the area. And I remember that day vividly. And I remember handing my cell phone to Christine Rice because, of course, Nosh is housed there.
Yep.
And as you know, involved with Tribute and Honor Foundation and raising funds for it and such. But the fact that our community stepped up to the plate to support you guys and to support that rebuild, that on the flip side, we have, not supporting you in the compensation you should get for medical issues that arose from your fighting the war. And then you have at heart the people. And in fact, as you know, Janine's going to be with me on the podcast next week. And she was so much involved with that on our end with Tribute and Honor Foundation, making sure we raised those funds. And many other people. It was the community that came together.
That first one was great.
Yeah,
first one there. Yeah.
But you have been such a part of kind of the new day for VFW Post 347.
Yeah, I'm different.
Yeah, you are different. Well, yes, I will give you that. And we love you for that. So I'm going to touch on this just because we need to visit on it. So your art. So I have a beautiful flag. So for those of you who are watching or listening, it is shaped like a heart, and it's the American flag.
Stars and Stripes.
Stars and Stripes.
Yeah.
And it is stained glass that hangs in the kitchen. So when Jim washes dishes, he looks out at it. It's just beautiful.
Yeah, it's a nice piece. Yeah.
How long have you been doing the stained glass?
48 years.
How long?
48 years. Wow. 1978. I took a class in Levittown, 6 weeks.
Wow.
One day a week, 6 weeks.
Wow.
With basic.
And I do know I have seen more than a few of those show up at auctions and such, or show up at raffles. And I do know the Hibernians.
Oh, yeah.
What a gift they have, and the fact that you always donate
a collider every year. Probably like for 15 years I've been doing that, giving them a framed piece for their auction.
Right.
And my wife's a Hibernian, so I like doing it.
So I'm going to have you back because speaking of your wife, I'm sorry we didn't get to marry because what an incredible lady in your family.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. And plus my record, my eBay business, my records. Yeah.
Right. So,
we'll do it again.
Find Howie online. If you can't find him, just reach out to me. And Howard, again, I know you know this, but
we've got a lot more to talk about.
A lot more to talk about. So sign back in. Always make sure you watch the podcast. And Howard, thank you so much for your service and for your friendship and for all you bring to our community.
Thank you, Gaitley. Appreciate it.
So you've been watching Many Voices, One Community. I'm Gaitley Stevenson Mathews. I'm so pleased today to have been with Howie Stillwagon. And Howie, thank you so much. And make sure you join us for the next episode of Many Voices, One Community. Thank you.